Batter up.
Bob and Chris, they're on the air. Yankees, Mets, they're everywhere. From the Bronx to Queens, the diamond gleams. MLB talk, the ultimate team. And why MLB is the place to be. Bob and Chris with the pitch you'll see. Swinging stacks and stories fly. Baseball talk that's amplified.
And welcome to a new episode of NYMLB Talk with your hosts, Rob and Chris, as we cover the Mets, Yankees, and all of Major League Baseball. And today we got a really special show because we got a great guest today. Rob, why don't you introduce him to everybody?
Yeah, we have ex-Major League pitcher John D'Acquisto, who pitched for, well, I'll name a few of them. He pitched for the San Francisco.
Pitch for?
Yeah, right.
Name who he didn't pitch for.
Go
But for the
ahead,
San Francisco Giants, and he pitched for the San Diego Padres and the Expos and the Cardinals and the A's and the Angels. Did I miss anybody?
I short stints with the White Sox and the Braves. So short they didn't even show up on my record. But I was a just in case for Hank Aaron and the Atlanta Braves, and also for Tony La Russa with the White Sox at the end of my career after Oakland. So
wow. See, yeah, right. They didn't list that. But all right, John, we're gonna talk baseball with you. We're gonna talk about your book, and we're gonna talk about your amazing artwork, and we're gonna show a bunch of stuff that you sent me over because it's just amazing. But let's start with the baseball. You were drafted by the San Francisco Giants. What year were you drafted in?
1970.
Okay,
I was the number one draft pick and 17th overall pick in the nation. Yep,
that's great. And there's an amazing story that I wanted to get into. I think it was your first spring training, right? They tell us who they lockered you next to.
Absolutely. I'm going to kind of preempt a little bit of this.
Okay.
In 1970, when I did get drafted, I went to Great Falls, Montana. And, I was homesick and stuff. And the manager calls me, and Harvey Kemp, he says, if you don't start pitching better, we're going to release you. Literally told me this. So I did. I started pitching better. I went out and threw a no-hitter. I thought that would kind of put the icing on the cake. Well, after that, he tells me I've been invited to spring training and winter ball. First, it was winter ball. And then at winter ball, Charlie Fox invites me to spring training. My first spring training, I'm 19 years old. I drive up in my car in the back part of the clubhouse at Casa Grande, because we started at Casa Grande for 2 weeks. I walk into the door, and it's the training room. Not a good place to start your career at, right? So I walk in, and Mike Murphy, the clubhouse manager at the time with Eddie Logan, comes up and he grabs my bag. He says, I'll show you your locker. You're John D'Acquisto, right? I said, yes, I am. It's nice to meet you, sir. He don't call me sir. Nobody calls anybody sir around here. Well, that was how I was brought up. Anyway, We walk in, and I go through the door, and he goes, that's your locker over there on the left. These next 8 lockers belong to Mr. Mays. And I went, do you mean Willie Mays? He goes, yes. And that's him right there. And I went,
whoa.
Oh, my God. It's the great one. I mean, 19 years old, and I'm looking at Willie Mays. He's not more than 20 feet away from me.
Wow.
I walk in. He takes me over to Mays, and he goes, Willie, John D'Acquisto, our number one draft pick for this year. Hey, nice to meet you. I said, well, it's nice to meet you, sir. Don't you dare call me sir. Call me Willie. You're my teammate now. You're going to have Giants across the top, San Francisco. You're now a teammate. You call me Willie. You're part of the team. He goes, it's nice to have you. That's your locker down there. He says, do you play golf at all? And I said, yeah, I do. He says, well, here's a couple boxes of Titleist. You can have those. And I open them up, and it's got Willie Mays on the ball.
Uh,
And I go like this. Yeah, like I'm going to really play with these. Sure.
yeah, really.
Yeah. No. And so, I'm sitting there and we're talking. He says, "Do you have a glove contract?" And I said, "No." And now I want you guys to pay attention, especially you, Mr. Yankee over here, Chris. Listen to the next name that pops up. You're going to know this name. He goes, "You don't have a glove or shoe contract?" I said, "No, I just got here." He says, "All right." He goes, Lefty Gomez, get over here.
Lefty Gomez.
Left-handed, all-time, one of the great pitchers of the Yankees. Right?
Yes. Yep.
Lefty comes around the corner. He's got his little horn-rimmed glasses on. He walks around the corner and he says, "What do you want, Will?" He says, "Take care of D'Acquisto, will you? He needs some shoes. He needs some gloves. He needs golf clubs. He needs all the goodies. Take care of." That's his locker down there. He can have 3 of my lockers of my 8. I don't need all these lockers. And I'm going, dang, that was fast. So Lefty comes up and he says, "Well, John, here's a contract. I want you to sign it, and then we'll take care of your shoes, your gloves, what size shoes." And Willie tells him, get him a little smaller because the kangaroo leather, stretches out. And, I'll show him how to break them in like we all do with a bucket of hot water. You step inside of it, you let it absorb the leather, and it stretches out and it forms to your foot. And I go, "Well, there's a science to this. Oh, my God." And so the next day I come in and my whole locker is full with shoes, full with gloves. I'm going, and golf clubs. Brand new golf clubs. I went fluid heel Wilson. I'm going, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." Oh, and I went over to Willie. I said, "God, thank you so much. God, it was really nice of you to do that for me." He says, "Son, you're in the big leagues now. Just go with the flow. If I tell you to do something, do it. Okay? Yes, sir. No, sirs. No, sir." He was like adamant. And but that was my first time with Willie. And then when we went up to Phoenix to start spring training, my first game I pitched in was in relief after Don Carruthers started the game. He went 3 innings, and then I came in after Donnie Carruthers. And Willie played in spring training usually about 5 innings, and then he would, take a break out and, leave or whatever, or watch the rest of the game. So I get in my first inning in the 4th, and I'm finished my windup, and I look around and I'm looking at center field, and I look and I see 24, Willie Mays in center field. And I'm staring at this going, "Oh my God, that's Willie Mays." And McCovey walks up to me and I go, "This is even worse. And you're Willie McCovey." Oh my God. Okay, now I got, "What do you want?" He goes, "Are you okay, kid?" And I said, "Well, not really. I'm kind of taking this all in." He goes, "Well, you got a game to pitch. Start getting serious." I go, "Don't worry about me getting serious, Mac. I'll do just fine." So I'm shaking. I'm shaking.
Yeah.
So I turn around and start to do my windup, and I hear this, hey, out in center field. He's screaming at me. Mays is screaming at me. "Don't you dare start pitching in. I'm not ready. I got to be ready." And I go like this. I took my hat off. I go, "Yeah, okay, fine. No problem." Put my hat back on, facing him. And he goes, "All right, go ahead." I turn around. First pitch I threw almost went to the backstop.
Yeah.
Dick Dietz was catching. And Dick Dietz goes, "Settle down, kid, settle down." And so the next 2 pitches were strikes. So I had 1 and 2, and the leadoff batter was Glenn Beckert. Glenn Beckert comes up, to hit off of me, and he's got to face this erratic 19-year-old throwing 100 miles an hour. And so, excuse me. So I go and get a full count and walk him. I walk him. He's first guy. Next guy's Don Kessinger. Kessinger comes up. and Beckert takes off to second. Dietz throws it into center field. Mays picks it up, throws it over to third. They almost bang him over there with Dirty Al Gallagher playing third base. And I'm going, and then the dugout Cubbies are just chattering away. They're going nuts. They're like chewing on my heels. You know, they're going, oh, we got this kid, rabbit ears, you know, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Going, oh, this is unbelievable. So I look over at them and they go, rabbit ears, because if you look over, they're going to really get you. So Kessinger comes up, strike him out. First strikeout, Major League Spring Training. First one. Next guy up, yeah, he's a pretty good hitter. Billy Williams. Now I got to face Billy Williams. This is the 69 Cubbies that were a great team. Great team. Billy Williams comes up. I strike out Billy Williams. And I'm going, well, I thought he was a good hitter. Well, it's spring training. You know, I got to strike out. Okay, next guy up. They're just jawing at me, and here goes Becker. Takes off from third, running, and I balk. The run scores. And McCovey calls timeout, and he walks over and he says, well, you know, kid, do you know what to do? And I said, yeah, I do. Well, we'll see if you know what to do. I said, yes, sir. I got this. Don't worry. Ron Sano, next hitter. Pretty good hitter. First pitch. Rib cage. Down he goes. And he looks over at the dugout and goes like this. Because I got him good. He got up very slow and struck out. I walk off the field. And it was like a kid just stole his first car for the gang, you know, patting on the head, getting hugs from everybody. My Charlie Fox came up to me. He says, oh, my God. You do know what to do, don't you? You're mature for your age. I said, yes, I am. Yes, I am. This is my game now. This is my game. And then Mays come up to me and tap me on the head. He goes, son, your ball got some movement. That's a dangerous pitch you're throwing up there. I hope to God those guys know how to get out of the way because you might be putting them on their backs a few times. And that was it. That was my introduction with Mays and the team. Yeah.
Well, listen, John, that Mays, I'm going to go over teammates you've had that are Hall of Famers. I can't believe this list. Willie Mays, obviously. Tim Raines, Gaylord Perry, Juan Marichal, Willie McCovey, Dave Winfield, Ozzie Smith, Gary Carter, Andre Dawson, Reggie Jackson, Rod Carew, Ricky Henderson, and Raleigh Fingers. What a list. I'll tell you, what a list.
Yeah.
And McCovey.
I know.
Did you mention McCovey?
Yeah.
Gaylord Perry. And there were some that should be in the Hall of Fame. Mickey Lolich, you know, the great Mick.
Yep.
But, you know, I couldn't believe the list when I saw it, how many guys I played with. And, you know, it's crazy. But, you know, it's also who I played against. You know, you look at that list, the golden era of baseball was in this, I'd say, middle 70s to 80s, late 80s. You had all the top flight players. You had Dave Parker, Willie Stargell, you know, go down the list, Mike Schmidt, Larry Boa, Bob Boone. You know, you can name 5 or 6 guys on each team that went to the Hall of Fame. And, you know, during that era, you know, you said, well, geez, did I pick a good time to play against these guys or should I waited a little longer? You know, maybe I might have had a little break or something. But, you know, you think about these teams that you played and then you did pretty good against them. You know, I have no regrets on my career.
Great.
And, you know, coming back from the injury was one thing, but I have no regrets at all because I was able to maintain my fastball at least and then become a reliever. And that was a key to my success, you know?
Yeah, you had early Tommy John surgery, right?
Yeah, sophomore jinx. Yep.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
listen, I have a question for you. How was it? What
Sure.
was it like pitching in Candlestick Park? I mean,
Oh boy. Yeah.
that had to be crazy.
Well, you had the advantage with the hitters because it was cold. And, you know, when you have that type of advantage with the hitters, their hands are so, you know, they're freezing. And you're on the mound, and I've got like 2 undershirts on and analgesic balm, and you know the wind is blowing and it's pushing you off the mound, and you know the whole thing. But I won a lot of games at Candlestick because of that fastball that darted into the right-handers, and then my slider would dart into the left-handers, and I had a good cut fastball too. And I used to save the broken bats that that I would break and have them brought to my locker. And the funny part was the bat boy who was doing that was Mario Alioto, who was the treasurer for the Giants later on in life. He's a relative of mine, and he would bring me all the bats. Well, I had to have all the bats stuffed in there, and I had a whole locker full of bats. And you know, but it was difficult sometimes. You'd see the fog come over the mountain on the south San Francisco side, and it would come over the mountain and roll right in like the crawling eye. You thought you were going to get eaten alive by the crawling eye coming to get you, you know. But it was interesting. Plus, we had AstroTurf at the time, and it was as hard as a rock. It was like concrete. And we didn't have running shoes back then either. So we had to do a lot of our leg work with spikes. And you talk about beating up your feet. It was pretty tough. But it was a great park because if you knew where the swirls were, and it swirled in center field and right center field, they went out. If you knew where those were, you would pitch right-handers in. So they would pull the ball, and the ball would literally come back from left field and back into the ballpark. I saw Johnny Bench. I was pitching against Bench. I had a 3-2 count, fired a fastball. He crushed it. And I see Matthews was in left field. I see him turn around and start looking at the ball. And then he turned around and started running in, and Chris Spire was running out, and Spire caught it over his head like this because he overran the ball as it went past him.
That's
crazy. I've never seen that before, but it came back a good 30, 40 feet, literally. Wow. It was crazy. So you had your ups and downs, and I learned from Marichal when I got there in 73. At least I had Juan to tell me everything about the ballpark and how to pitch. So I had some great mentors.
Yeah, probably the best anybody could have, really, when you think about it. John, absolutely. You've been on a few teams, obviously. We mentioned a few of them. What is the process? Because we see it every year. Guy gets traded from one team to the next. Mm-hmm. What's the process like for a player like yourself to go from one team to the next? I couldn't imagine moving from, East Coast to West Coast or one state to another state. What is the process that you go through off the field, let alone on the field?
Yeah. First of all, I was fortunate enough when I did get traded earlier. I played, in the big leagues from 73 to 77 with the Giants. And then I got traded to the Cardinals for about 6 months. And that was during the Vernon Rapp era. And at that particular time, Vernon and I didn't get along because I was a player rep. And he was getting on the guys and really upsetting the whole team. And I was sticking up for the guys, and he wanted to get rid of me. So I kept seeing Bob Fontaine in the stands. Every place that I pitched, Bob Fontaine was there. And I said, "Oh, there's something going on." I've had that feeling, and you know it. You know when the anger starts to develop with the manager, you're going to be gone in about 2 weeks. So you start looking for waivers. Did you pass waivers? Did somebody pick them up? And then I heard through the grapevine that I was picked up on waivers by San Diego. And next thing I know, we're in Houston. I get a knock on my door, and it's Claude Osteen, my pitching coach, St. Louis. Comes in. He had a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. He comes in. He says, "I had nothing to do with this. Nothing." And I still laugh about it because,
That's so funny. We have a question from a listener. You played when you played for Oakland. Billy Martin was the manager, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He wants to know if you had to keep a lot of Visine in the dugout because he was kicking dirt in Ump's faces so much.
There you go.
That's a great question. No, he was far enough away. If you know anything about Oakland, it's very wide in the foul territory areas. Yeah. So you had plenty of space. Plus, I was in the bullpen, so I didn't have to worry about Billy kicking dirt in my way, except when I was on the mound. And Billy was, I got along great with Billy. Billy was a good friend, and he's Bay Area Italian, and we go on road trips, and he had Sam Sebastiani of Sebastiani Wines. He'd bring a jug of wine and smoked fish. 2 of the greatest things that an Italian kid would love to have. Well, Billy's walking up the plane, and he's got this bottle and this fish. And you're walking up I sat in the back of the plane with Steve McCaddy, and he walks back and he goes, "Diggs, do you want some of this?" And I go, "Sure, Skipper. Yeah, bring it on." And he was telling me stories one after another, and we're having wine and eating. Billy was great. You just had to know how to talk to Billy and, respect Billy for who he was. And he was aggressive, and I liked it. And I pitched a lot of games for him, even on my short stint with Oakland. I got in a lot of games, and, I have a lot of respect for Billy for that. He gave me that extra time I needed to get my extended time period for my 10 years. So, and Billy was great. He was just great. And most of the stuff that he did was for show. And, most of the time that I found out, he started the fights. He had his pitchers throwing at guys to start the fight so he could go out and fight. It was just part of it. And he told me, he says, "I love having an Italian hitman on my team." He said, "This is awesome. This is awesome." And that was Billy. Billy was awesome. He was something else, man. He came out to me one time and he goes, "That's Jeff Hostetler." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I want you to hit him." I go, "I'm not asking why, but I will." He says, "Okay." This is a funny story. So he walks off the mound. First pitch I throw at Jeff's head, he ducks. And at Oakland, they have that pipe in the middle of the backstop, right? It's like a post that ties in the backstop padding. It hits the pipe and comes back, right back at Hofstadter, hits him in the ankle, and he goes down. And Billy's yelling from the dugout, "If we couldn't get you on the first one, he's got you on the recoil." Yeah, he got you. And I'm going, what did this guy do to you? And then the next pitch, I hit him in the rib cage, and here comes Billy out of the dugout, and here comes everyone's breaking out. Here it goes. And, in Hofstadter, if you know anything about Jeff, he's really a nice guy, but in baseball, nice guys finish last, like Leo DeRocher said.
Yep.
And it's like Billy didn't like nice guys. He liked tough, aggressive ball players. and Mike Heath was the catcher. Poor Mike. Mike, Hofstadter's like 6'4", 225, 230. And Mike is like trying to he's on his back and he can't do anything. And then the other times, it was crazy stuff. We had fights all the time, because Billy was constantly frustrated. He was going through contract, so he had to take his frustrations out on the other team. But it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And,
Do you have any interesting stories? I know you weren't with the A's that much, about 11, 12 games, but do you have any interesting stories about Ricky Henderson?
Oh, absolutely. I was there when he broke the record.
Oh, okay.
But one of the best stories, and you guys might have heard this. I was sitting kind of like when you walk. I don't know if you've ever been in the Oakland clubhouse, but you walk through the door and you go by Billy's office, and then you walk into the clubhouse, and it goes like a straight line all the way down. And I was like right off of that door that you walk in. That's where my locker was. And I was next to Michael Norris. Michael Norris was next to me, and then Ricky was next to Michael. They kept Ricky next to Michael because Michael looked after Ricky. Well, one day, Sandy Alderson comes down with a check for Ricky. It's a bonus check for breaking the record, right? This is a great story. So he hands it to Ricky, and congratulations, Ricky. Here's your bonus check, and don't spend it all in one place. Da 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 da. Well, time's going by, and Alderson come back down. And he goes, Ricky, did you ever cash that check I gave you? Oh no, I framed it. I put it up on my wall.
I heard that before, but that's great. That's a great story.
It's a true story. And Sandy put his head down like this. He said, we'll get another one. Michael, make sure you take him to the bank and make sure he catches his head.
That is great. Chris, you want to put up John, because time is flying. This is great. Want to put up his book so we could plug his book?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a picture of your book, John. Tell us a little about the book while he's getting that.
Well, the book is about a journeyman's quest in the big leagues from the beginning when he was a little leaguer. And it talks about the process of starting in little league and working your way up through high school and, pony league, etc. as a kid. And then how you were looked at as a kid when you played, and then how they drafted you into baseball, along with the college portion of it, that all the colleges that were after you at the time too. So you had all these things at 18 years of age. You had to learn the process. Like right now, there was nobody there to teach you the process. You had to learn it yourself. And so I went through that. And when I got drafted, and it talks about the journey that I had, as the stories that I told you with meeting Willie Mays and finally going to spring training, being told you're going to get released, and how much pressure they put on you. And you're an 18-year-old kid. You've never heard these things before. And then all the guys I met along the way, Goose Gossage, Bucky Dent, guys that are still friends of mine to today, and how struck up camaraderie and, and still have that friendship as brothers now that we're approaching our later years in life. And the games that I played in, how I made the transition from a starting pitcher to a reliever, how I battled through Tommy John, how I battled through divorces, and, you name it. Everything about my life is in this book. And I just felt, I'm not a superstar, and I don't claim to be a superstar, but I had some good years and beat some pretty big superstars. And, it's like I had to tell this story because it is about my life and the ups and downs that you can come into as a baseball player and as a person. And, and I had my ups and downs, and I was able to recover and reinvent myself. And that's partly why I had to tell the complete story, because not the complete story was getting out about what happened to me and how I recovered from that. And so that's why I wrote the book. And then we fact checked everything. And it's been, as you can see, 4.5 stars. Not bad.
It's another book that I have to read now
because you got to read this. I'm telling you, Rob. It's a good one.
Yeah, I can't wait to get it.
I had people call me up and say, you know what? I was supposed to be at school at 8:30 in the morning, and I was still reading your book until 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to call in sick.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely.
It's that type of book. It grabs you. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a book that once you start reading it, it talks about all those individuals that I had relationships with, including Marvin Miller, and how Marvin and I were in touch with each other. And a lot of people didn't know this, but Marvin used to call me up at midnight and ask me my opinion about, negotiating with guys like Ray Grebe. And I go, what the heck are you calling me for? You're the all-star of all-stars. I mean, come on. John, you know these guys. You know how they think. And I said, okay, ask a question. And we stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning because I was a player rep, and it's like people didn't understand the relationship that I had, a father-son relationship with Marvin. And Marvin would tell me everything to prepare me for later when he got taken off and Don Fear came in and took over, and Bob Moss, all these great people that are no longer with us anymore, except for Donald. Donald's still with us. And, it's like, that's in the book. The 81 strike year was the year that broke things loose. And I was one of the fighters, and how I went after Augie Bush. Marvin came up to me and he goes, Johnny, he says, you got to ask Bush how he has interest in 6 different major league ball clubs. Me? That's something you should ask him.
Right.
He goes, that's not in my contract here. Okay. He goes, no, you got to do it. Nobody else wants to do it. We had Don Baylor, Bob Boone, we had Bill Lee, we had, all the big stars, Steve Renko, all the big stars that were on the executive board for the Players Association did not want to ask that question. So I did. So we're in a meeting at this big table, with all the owners and everything. And I go, Mr. Bush, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me to play for the St. Louis Cardinals, one of the greatest organizations in baseball. And I really enjoyed being in St. Louis. Too bad I couldn't stay longer. But I have to ask you a very serious question, sir. Why is it you have interest in 6 different major league ball clubs? I thought he was going to come over the table after me. Where'd you get that information? I said, a little birdie told me.
Yeah.
The Cardinal.
Is it true? Yeah, exactly. Is it true, sir? Yes, it is true. Well, how isn't that a conflict of interest? I mean, you're not on trial, but I thought it was a conflict of interest to have only one team. Now you have interest in 6. Dead silent. Dead silent. Buzzy Bavasi was my GM and president of the Angels at the time. Decided that he would make a move and send me to AAA baseball and put me on a diesel tour because of what I did to Mr. Bush. Well, we come to find out later, Marvin said, well, you want to sue him? Because they're not supposed to make any moves. It's a strike. No moves are to be made till after the strike. So he goes, what do you want to do? I said, I'm not going to sue baseball. I did what I was supposed to do. I'll suck it up and I'll come back. I'm not worried about me. I'll make it back. But that Augie Bush situation set me back a couple of years, and it really hurt my career. And I knew at the time that I should have gone to New York and been a Yankee, because I got drafted by the Yankees. And I agreed to contract with the Yankees in 1981 with George. And I remember George was on the phone with me, and he says, "John, I'll give you 3 years guaranteed, and the fourth year is an option year." Classic George Steinbrenner contract, right? And it was for over $1 million, right? But at the last minute, the Angels came back, Bavasi came back and offered me 4 years guaranteed because they just lost Mark Clear to the Boston Red Sox. You remember that?
Yep.
So he needed a closer. He had to cover his Meester. And so, at that particular point, he got me. Jerry Kapstein was my agent. He called me up at 1 o'clock in the morning. He says, "Get out of bed, get in your car, and get down to my house." Because Jerry lived in La Jolla and I lived in Del Mar. So, it's like, okay, I'm coming. And got down there and he goes, here's from the Angels. And here's a check for $600,000. And I went, "Dang, all right, what the hell? Still play for another California team, I played for almost all the California teams except for one, the Dodgers.
The Dodgers.
So,
but that's amazing.
That's how that process went. So you see the politics that's involved with all these trades and the free agency. And then it was like, once you get labeled, then they start bouncing you around. Then you become a hired gun. You stay a year here, you stay a year here, you're just in case here, and you're traveling out of a suitcase. Your family gets beat up because you're not home to be with them. And it's a mental strain. And plus, you still got to go out and pitch well on top of it.
Right.
So the process can change from team to team. Some are more fair than others, but for the most part, it's not a fair situation to be a journeyman in baseball. It really isn't.
No, so you basically keep your family in one city and you move to wherever you go. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then my wife came out and saw me periodically, and which was good. But it's like that's tough on a family.
Yeah, sure.
It's a very tough life. You really have to love the game. And like I tell a lot of young kids that I talk to, if you're going to make a commitment to baseball, you have to love the game. The game is your wife. The game is your livelihood. The game is what you owe yourself to. Your family becomes second. You need to understand that. If you think your family's first, you're not going to last on the first trade that you're traded out to. You're going to quit. And a lot of kids do. A lot of kids can't take it. And that's what I've seen nowadays is what I'm seeing all over the place. Yep.
Chris, imagine I think John would have been a great fit with the Yankees, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I had the mustache, too.
There you go.
I had the mustache. I had the curly hair. I was a good Sicilian boy. The whole thing. I would have been a real good fit.
And what year did George offer you? Was that 80, 81?
It was in the after 80 season, 81 season. That
Okay.
was in the winter of 80 when I became a free agent. And I was with Montreal. Now get this, as a free agent, Montreal offered me a 4-year contract also. So I had 4-year contract from them, 3-year contract from George, 4-year contract from the Angels. And I'll throw in Cleveland and Milwaukee because they offered me three in an option on both of those. So I had a place to go. It's just I should have gone to New York. I'm telling you, New York would have been great for me. I would have made more money off the field than on the field.
Yeah,
And you would have
Chris?
played in the World Series that year too. 81 was a World Series year for the Yankees.
Gets the Dodgers.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying, and I would have pitched too, because I had Goose there.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I would have been
That would have
good.
been a nice.
'Cause they
That would have been a nice
remember.
back of the bullpen. 1-2
Oh
punch
yeah,
there between
exactly.
Goose and yourself.
Yeah, give him a day of rest and put me in.
There
It's
you go.
like, and that's what they were planning on doing. And it was sad because I got Goose calls me up on the phone. He goes, "What the hell did you do that for?" I was looking for it because they had lost. Who was the closer before? Ron
Davis.
Davis.
Ron
Davis was their setup man to Goose. He goes and takes off, and that's why they had to get me, because they had to fill that spot. Well, when they did, I already agreed verbally to George on the phone, and they had it in the New York Post that Yankees get D'Acquisto, for backup, to Goose Gossage headlines, right? Oh, George was pissed. I couldn't believe George was so mad at me. And it wasn't me. It was my agent.
But I just hope, the young players, the contracts they're making, they have guys like you to thank for it. Let me tell you, they probably don't even realize what you went through.
No, they don't. They don't. They don't have a clue. There's some players that do. And they come up and pat me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I want to thank you for what you did for us," but you don't hear it from them. You don't hear it at all. And I was working in clubhouses all over baseball, with game compliance for MLB. And I was like face to face with guys, face to face with the player reps. And nobody came up to me but one guy. And that one guy was Hunter Pence. And he came up to me and says, "I know what you did for us, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, what you did for us. Thank you very much for sticking it out there."
Yeah, what you guys went through. I mean, listen, Marvin Miller, he was great. He was the man he was the right man for that job. Let me tell you, because the strides that were made, when the owners used to own you like you were just a piece of meat, they owned you like it was ridiculous. And Chris had to go out and come back in. He froze, but it was ridiculous what you had to go through. And now forget it. These players have everything, and they have guys like you to thank for this.
And we're still doing things for players today. Still, there's the retired major league players alumni that we put together with Kurt Bavacqua, and we're still doing things to fight for pension benefits and getting guys their time that they had when they played ball. A lot of time has been left off of the pensions for them, and some guys don't get their pensions because of it. And now they're starting to find out that they're missing some things on times of service time.
Yeah.
So we're still doing things for the guys to let them know what to do, so they get an honest shake from the life that they gave to baseball.
Now, John, do you get because you had the years of service, do you get the major league gold card where you could go to any major league?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
yes.
Good.
I have one. Yes.
Yeah, that's another great benefit. I'm just waiting for Chris to come back because he has all your paintings that we want to get up. Okay, there he
comes. There he is.
All right.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, I haven't. Who are you? No.
Yeah. No, Chris. Hey, Chris. We want to.
So
we're going to start talking about his art.
Yep.
I just have one question about a record. Not a great record, John, but it's kind of cool that you tied a National League record in '76 with 3 wild pitches in 1 inning.
Yeah, that got shattered this past couple of years by a couple of guys that had 5. So, yeah, I did. But here's the story.
Okay.
I got traded from St. Louis to San Diego, but I had to go to Montreal to go pick up the Padres, right?
Yeah.
So that game, when I got there, it was Johnny McNamara was the manager. Roger Craig was the pitching coach at the time. Okay. That game went 23 innings, and I was scheduled to pitch the next day. So I was told to go home back to La Cité Hotel in Montreal and get some rest. Well, I go down, I get something to eat, I look at the TV, the game's still going on. I go back up to my room, I turn the TV on, and the game's still going. Then Rick Sawyer decides that he's going to throw 9 innings of shutout relief. And the game kept going and kept going and kept going. Finally, I went to sleep, and I woke up, and I looked, the game was still going. And I said, oh, this is great. I get up in the morning, get my clothes on, go down to catch the bus, and there's nobody on the bus. Zero. I was the only guy with the bus driver. He takes me, I said, are we waiting for him? No, they told me just to bring you and park the bus. And I said, well, what happened? They're still at the ballpark. They stayed overnight at the ballpark and ate pizza, had pizza and beer and sat around, play cards and all that. I said, that's probably a safer place for them to be. Trust me, in this town. Yeah. And so I show up and I walk in and everyone's passed out on the floor. They got towels, and blankets and all that. It's like a sleep out for kids. And I walk in, I go to my locker, and Doug Rader meets me. He says, "Oh, John, I forgot to ask you, do you have any white shoes or anything?" I said, "I came from the Cardinals, man. You got white paint?" That's about all I got. I said, I don't know. He says, "Well, here's an old pair of mine. I had Doug Rader's old shoes that were falling apart. That's all I had because we were in Canada and no one could get to me in time to give me some shoes." And I go, oh my God. Anyway, I get in the game and Gene Tennis was a catcher. And Gino, he caught almost the whole game, him and Rick Sweet. Remember, Rick Sweet was his backup.
Yeah.
And first pitch I threw, Gene went like this. He had his hand up and didn't move. Ball went right past his ear. That's number one. Number two, same thing. At least he made an effort. He went like this. Missed it. Number two. Next one I threw was in the dirt, through his legs, hit the backstop. Number three. Next pitch, he caught, but it was ball four. See you later. See you later. There's your 3 wild pitches.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And, I sit there and I shake my head. And I said, well, that's a record that could last for a while. And it did. It did last for a while until these kids started pitching, throwing these high spinning sweepers and sliders and curveballs
102 with movement.
Yeah, 102 and every place else.
Yeah.
And then Rodriguez came out and broke my record. He had 5. He had 5.
There you go. That I don't think will be broken anytime soon. So
no, I don't think so.
All right, John, we have to get to the art because before the show, me and Rob were looking at some of the ones that you sent him and looking at your website too. Pretty amazing. I got to post some of these for everybody to check out. Just bear with me.
I will.
As I'm going to put them up, just give us a little intro on how you got into art and how you got started, really.
Well, I started messing around with number 2 pencil and just sketch pads, just general, passing my time. And
Amazing.
Go Blue Jays. It's like I started getting better, and a friend of mine came over and he said, "Did you draw this?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Can I buy that from you?" And I said, "Seriously? You want to buy that?" He goes, "Yeah, I'd like to buy that from you." And I said, "Yeah, sure. How much?" $50, whatever. I don't know. Make me a deal. I can't refuse. I don't care. And that's how it started. And I started getting better as time started going on. And then I dropped it because I didn't pump it as a business. It was more like a hobby. And then as time started rolling, digital art came up. Digital art came up, and we have what we call an eye pencil. You see it right here? If I can get, oh, there it is.
Yeah, there
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I started getting into the digital side, and I found something new, but I wasn't too sure about it. I didn't like it. So I went back to doing my oil and also my acrylic. And I started painting again. And then I also do watercolor, acrylic, and mix my colors and my types of mediums, brushes, different sizes, pens, you name it, pads, everything. You just dab. Like on this one here, you had to dab the sky with oranges and blues, and and I got into different techniques. Well, it started really taking off, and then I was asked to do a couple of sports type art, and I got picked up by MLB and they made me a vendor. Then it got even better. The Giants asked me to do a production of 29 pieces of different Giant players, and it put it on the promenade. That's one of my favorites, by the way. On the promenade, and it was of Jim Thorpe, Dave Gervecki, Tim Flannery, myself even, Willie Mays, McCovey. So I did, 29 different, pictures of the Giant players. Then it started taking off, and once I got on MLB then I developed my site on that you've seen this. I've got about 3 different sites, and that's one of my favorites too. And so then things started to roll. I started selling stuff, and I was able to sell the Toronto Blue Jay one. Just sold 4 of them. Guess who bought that picture?
Who?
Take a wild guess.
Somebody from the team now? Somebody from the team now?
Someone that played for them.
Carter? Joe Carter?
Garth Orge.
Oh, wow. Garth Orge. Wow.
Garth and I are good friends. He goes, I want that. I want 4 of them. I got to give to my kids.
Great.
For Christmas. And so I have a lot of ex-players that love my work. And,
that's great.
This one sold too. A lot of
sure.
LA stuff has sold. And the Yankee sold too, There's a lot to say. This technique with the drops, the drips, that you see these drips. Gene Locklear taught me how to do that. Remember Gene Locklear, Yankee player?
Yeah.
Okay. Gene came from the Padres, went to the Yankees. He's a fabulous artist. He is absolutely to die for. He does a lot of Indian art and he does a lot of abstract work. Well, he gave me this idea, this concept, and I showed it to him. He goes, bingo, you got it. Go with it, run with it. And the paint drips add to the mystique of the picture itself and the story that's being told. And you got the stadium, the cityscape and all. It's just really a cool picture.
Yeah.
And I started doing these, and they started to sell. And so, it's turned out to be a pretty good business. And, it keeps me sane, keeps my mind, sane. It's fun when you do these pictures, your mind just escapes into the picture. And then you're able to paint with your heart, paint with your spirit, paint with your soul. And that's what I've developed. Different techniques of different old time artists, Renaissance with new wave, type art. That's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, That's beautiful. Where could they check this out? You want to give your website out so they could check
Yeah,
this
sure. It's you can see me if you go into any search browser, just type in artwork by John D'Acquisto, and it pops up on the search engine optimization. Yeah. It's number one, and you can pick it up there. When you get to my site, it says see more art. When you go to see more art, just click that button and you can see all the art that you want, which you'll see a lot of these pictures that are there. And, so it's readily available. People ask, periodically, is this for sale? Is it the original? Can I get a litho? Yes, you can. You can. Everything I do is for sale. There's some pieces that aren't for sale. But, I just keep doing things that people enjoy. And I don't stereotype my style. I do different things. But this is primarily my main style is the sunsets. I do really good sunsets.
It's just amazing artwork. When I first saw it, I was like, we have to talk about this on the show because it's just amazing.
Some of these look like photos. They don't even look like art. Like this thing looks like, I know. Yeah, that looks like a photo. This one too. I mean,
yeah,
it's just amazing.
That's digital. That's digital. Okay. And with digital, it makes it so much clearer and more precise. You'll see the difference. Like when you put something up, that's a digital photo. That is painted. As you can see the ocean, you can see the brush strokes in the ocean. You can see the brush strokes in the sails, and you can see in his face. You can't do that with digital. So, the variance that you have to work with, and it's so much fun to work with different types of mediums and get a proven result from it. That's the key, is to have that. That's my favorite. I mean,
that's great.
Yeah, great movie.
That's great. Yeah, everyone.
Yeah,
you got
Redford.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh yeah, when Redford died, I met Bob when he was doing the natural, starting to research the natural at Candlestick Park, and he was with Pete Rose at the time, and I was pitching against the Reds that night, and he showed up, and I'll tell you what, man, I was so excited to meet the man. I had to regain my composure, because he was asking me some questions about pitching, and so when he died, I had to do that picture for him.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that. But so everybody, you have to check out John's art. You really do. It's amazing stuff. We're running out of time, but Chris, you have to ask John the question we ask every guest the first time they're on, and then I got a couple things to mention. So go ahead, ask John that question.
Okay, John, if you were named MLB commissioner today, what changes would you make to the game?
I'd get rid of the runner on second base, number one. Okay.
Number one.
Let the boys play the game. I would, take care of the players. The players are the game. Ownership will make their money. It's an easy trade-off if you keep the concept of keeping the players in mind and making sure you have a consistency of longer innings into the bullpen. The starters have to go longer and get them prepared and have better training for the starting pitchers and relievers, and they should be training sports specific. They should also look at TTI, which is a total tracking index, which tracks total pitches thrown in a game. Not in the game, but before the game, when they play catch, when they go to the bullpen to warm up, and also when they get in the game between innings. If you go by the total index, it'll really wake you up. And if you see one time you have a chance, tab how many pitches a pitcher's throwing before he gets in the game. And I'll guarantee you it's almost 50 to 60 pitches before he throws one pitch in a game. That has to stop That training methodology has to stop. And if I were commissioner, I would disallow it completely.
Great.
Totally.
Yep. That's definitely a great answer. Well, Chris, he's been great. And John, listen, we didn't even get to half the stuff we wanted to ask you. I'll tell you the truth.
It's okay. I can come back.
Yeah, you have an open,
yeah, that would be great.
yeah, you have an open invitation, especially off season. We have a lot of shows like this, but we enjoyed it. Chris, you got anything else you want to ask John before I just mention our schedule real quick?
I guess I got to ask you, when you were on the Padres, right? You talk about you were with Willie Mays when you first got to the Giants. When you got to the Padres, you talk about Hall of Famers, Ozzie Smith. You mentioned Gene Tennants, who probably should be in the Hall of Fame. But what about you witnessed an early Ozzie Smith, Dave Winfield, both guys, still in their early years. How was it with those guys? You got a story or two about those guys real quick.
Ozzie was a good friend of mine. Ozzie and I had a pickoff move where I'd go to my nose, classic Billy Martin, go to the nose, and Ozzie would count to 4, and I would turn and throw, and we picked off guys like Davey Lopes. It was insane. We were picking guys off left and right because of that little move, but Ozzie and I were really good friends and still are today. And Dave Winfield and I are still very good friends. And, it's a pleasure to be able to have guys like that you played with and still have that communication and camaraderie with each other. I'm still very close with Tim Flannery, and Tim and I are real close because we both played guitar, and, it's just
so you do
the Padres was.
So you do everything.
Well, I try to. I'm a Renaissance.
You check all the boxes. You check all the boxes.
I check all the boxes. Somebody called and said, "Johnny, you're Walter Mitty and reincarnated." I said, "Yeah, you're right. I am."
It's great. Great, John. Listen, thank you. We can't wait to have you back on again. I just have a few quick announcements. Friday night at 10 p.m. we'll be back. Former Mets manager Mickey Callaway may be on if the World Series is still going on. So we'll let you know about that. Next Monday at 3 p.m. we have former Mets and Cubs pitcher and Cubs GM Eddie Lynch is coming back. Can't wait to talk to Ed again. He was great last time. And we have a bunch of other stuff going on. Tonight I'm going to be on 108 Stitches for the South Florida Tribune. So I'm going to be on at 8:30 tonight. And next show Friday, buy John's book, Fastball John. It looks great. Check out his paintings. And John, once again, thanks. You have an open invitation.
Definitely.
You're welcome, Rob and Chris. Thank you both very much. You were very, very, very nice to be with you both. And I look forward to coming back again so we can finish up.
Thanks. All
I
right,
don't think there's ever going to be a finish up, but
No, there won't be a finish. No. We'll
Never.
be part 2, 3, 4, 5.
But it's great. Okay. Thanks again. And we'll see everybody Friday.